We will be going over the top 10 best and top 10 worst world champions of all time, not just WWE, but across the board, any federation, any point in history. And yes, I realize that my list is probably going to be lacking a little bit because I'm not, digging up some obscure reference from the NWA and whatever, and I've looked up other various lists online to try to get some ideas, maybe, jog my memory. And some of these I was like, okay, this happened back in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s. Like, I do have some older guys on my list, from those eras, but in all honesty, like, some of these, it's like, okay, this guy was some obscure 1 month champion from the NWA, I'm not going to mention it. Like, but, so, obviously our lists are going to be very subjective.
Yeah.
Do you want to change it up a little bit? I always go first. How about you go first? Do you want to go with your top 10 worst or top 10 best?
Oh, let's go with the worst. That's the fun one.
Oh yeah, all right. What are your top 10 worst world champions in history?
So with my worst, you're going to see some names like amazing wrestlers. I just went strictly with that run was terrible.
Same here. Did you rank them, by the way?
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, go.
Okay, at number 10, I said Michael Elgin because we waited so long for that reign, and it was, like, so dismal.
Wow, I forgot he was even a world champion.
Yeah, that was... I waited so long for that, and then, like, it just faded away. It was horrible.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that. Yeah. My next one was Chris Sabin. Same thing.
Yeah, I forgot he was a world champion.
Amazing wrestler, but world champion for a minute.
Yep. Yeah, that sucks.
Number 8, Jack Swagger. That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, who remembers that?
Yeah.
Well, WWE commentary wants to remind us every time he's getting crushed by an opponent, he's a former world champion, so this means something.
Yeah. 7 was Christian.
Yeah. You're talking about his WWE runs, right?
Yeah, totally, yep. Yeah. Next, I had the Iron Sheik because it was totally just a transitional thing.
Not according to him.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. That's what you asked.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, so that was 5. I had Scott Steiner.
Did you say 6?
Just because... That was 6, sorry.
Oh, okay.
That was... 5 is Scott Steiner.
Which one? WCW?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one he won, right?
Yeah, it is. He had 3. I think he won 3 times or twice, something like that. But
I thought he had good runs. I wasn't watching WCW at that time, but I thought he was...
it felt like all he did was feud Booker T.
Well, yeah.
It. That was horrible.
Yeah, didn't he... They had a cage match where he put him in a straitjacket, right? And then locked in the Steiner recliner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when he hurt his vertebrae, too, when he dropped around his ass, but it went crazy, crooked or something like that. I just looked at... But yeah, you heard him in that.
Wow.
Next was Vince Russo. Again, self-explanatory.
That's number 4?
Yeah, well, the 3 I have ahead of him, you might see why.
All right.
Number 3, the Great Khali. What the hell were they thinking?
Oh, man. Well, you put him above Vince Russo, really?
Well, yeah, because Vince Russo was more like an accident. He just gave it up. It's not really recognized rank, to be fair, but I still put it on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, and then the 2 ahead of him you might agree with. Number 2, Vince McMahon.
Which one, or all of them?
Well, both, but yeah. I was mainly thinking about the ECW one. I thought that was just a crap on the company.
Yes. And he was wearing a do-rag.
Number 1, you should know who number 1 is.
David Arquette?
Yes, David Arquette. That was my worst one ever.
To those of you that don't know, we're joking. We know it's David Arquette, but one of our old friends said David Arquette one time because he didn't know how it was pronounced.
He was serious, too. He wasn't joking. He was really calling him David Arquette.
Yeah. And we decided not to, because I asked Greg, I was like, should I tell him? He's like, no, just let it go.
No, why you take away our fun? Why would you do that? Well,
it was fun, too. It just... Yeah, man. And they acted like that was a good thing, like that was a coup.
Yeah. Well, you know what? To be fair, though, I don't hold him responsible for it because DDP said he gave all of his money to Brian Pillman's family from that WCW run. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so he was not doing it to crap on the business. Apparently, he was forced to do it. He didn't want to do it, but
Oh wow. Well,
so, I mean, he did something good with the money at least. He's not a bad person. It's just he should have been world champion.
Well, no, but okay. Well, in his defense, let me ask you this: if somebody was like, "Hey," and you were just some random celebrity, whatever, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna bring you in, this thing for this movie we're doing, and and by the way, you're gonna win the World Heavyweight Championship, of WCW," are you gonna say no?
I probably wouldn't.
If they brought me into WWE and if I was some I guess, would you say he was an A-list celebrity at the time? Maybe B-list? Like, whatever. But if I was...
Maybe B.
Yeah, if I was a B-list celebrity and they brought me in and I'm promoting this movie I'm doing for the company, since they do have WWE films now, and just they were like, hey, we're going to... Even if it was the Intercontinental title, they were like, hey, we're going to put the Intercontinental title on you. Is that okay with you? I'd be like, hell yes. Like, I might feel a little bad about it afterwards, get you some heat with the boys in the backstage, but I don't care. It's the Intercontinental title, man. I can say forever that I was the Intercontinental champion.
Yeah. It's a huge bragging point.
If I was David Arquette, on my gravestone it would say former WCW World Heavyweight Champion David Arquette.
It probably will.
Well, now that you have said I say what?
Who makes the gravestone, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I would even put that on my resume, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'd introduce myself that way to people I didn't know. I'm like, hi, I'm David Arquette, former WCW World Heavyweight Champion. How are you?
Well, I made some movies, too.
Yeah, I was in Scream and whatever. But yeah, I was WCW World Heavyweight Champion. I smashed DDP in the head with a guitar. It was DDP, right? Or was it Booker T?
It was DDP, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I smashed DDP in the head with a guitar, Al-Kabonged him, and then, stole the world title. Anyway, I will... let me hit my top 10. You and I had some similar ones, but in different order. No, and again, same thing. Amazing wrestlers, terrible runs. Number 10, and I'm a big fan of this guy, Diesel in WWE. Not so much because he had some good matches. So, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, people like that, some memorable matches. But man, his drawing power was poop. Like,
he was going against Hogan. Don't forget, though, 95.
Yeah, but
to be fair.
Well, I guess there was this thing where he went up to Jack Briscoe and was like, "Why am I?" He was like, "Why am I the lowest paid WWF champion in history?" And he's like, "Because you're the lowest drawing WWF champion in history."
Wow.
So yeah. So
I mean, no offense, no disrespect to the dead, but Yokozuna did better than him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and like I said, I'm a big fan of Kevin Nash, but yeah,
I am too. Yeah.
I've always been a mark for him.
I can see why you put that on there.
Yeah, that's why it's so high on the list, though, or so low on the list, I guess, because he didn't have a bad run. It was just a really low time for the company, and I don't fully blame it all on him, but at the same time, it was just, I don't know. And then him and Shawn tried to add more to their match by bringing out Playboy models. It was just weird. By the way, I think his wife was there at the time. It was like,
probably went over real well.
Yeah. Number 9, Rey Mysterio, World's Heavyweight Champion. I say this...
I had it on my list, but I bumped it.
Yeah. Well, I say that because... do you remember anything about this run? Besides his WrestleMania match?
No, and I hate saying this, but I think it was all just because of Eddie. I hate saying that, but...
It was.
Yeah, and it's like, he should have been world champion, but that's the only reason it was.
Didn't he ride the lowrider out to the Royal Rumble, or was that another match? Yeah. And he did Eddie's taunt. He had the Eddie Guerrero armband. Just the whole thing through his entire run. You know what it was for, because they wanted to give that title back to Eddie, but they couldn't, obviously. So I guess the original plan for WrestleMania, what was that one, 21, 22? 22. I guess the original plan they had in place until Eddie's passing was they wanted Eddie Guerrero versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, which just makes me sad thinking about, we could have had that.
Yep.
Number 8, Eric Young, TNA World Champion.
Oh man, that was one I forgot about.
The entire reason, and you and I talked about this at the time, was because they were trying to make him their Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan was hot at the time, winning titles, and TNA already, they brought in that amazing red under the mask as Sangriento, because he was supposed to be Sin Cara. And then they bring in, they have Eric Young doing he's such an underdog, and he's got a big beard, and whatever. It's like, oh my gosh. And again, Eric Young's an amazing wrestler. Hopefully someday he will be a world champion in WWE, but a legitimate one. Not, we're giving you this title because WWE's doing the same thing with their guy that's kind of like you. Number 7, Mr. Anderson. Because he was like, 2-3-time TNA champion for a combined reign of a week?
Yeah.
That was just pathetic.
TV time, yeah.
It was pathetic, man. Like, come on. Yeah, in real time, because of the tapings, he held the thing for like a day.
Yep.
It was just, and I love Mr. Anderson, but good Lord. And I was so excited. That was when you were talking about, you were excited about, a title reign. I was so excited about this. I've been waiting since he left to come to TNA. At Genesis that year that he debuted, that was the one thing that I was excited for in that entire show was him. And flop. They did nothing with him.
Yep, TNA for you.
Yep. Number 6, Jack Swagger, World's Heavyweight Champion. Like you said, who the hell remembers it? Number 5, Christian, World's Heavyweight Championship. Because, again, he's a 2-time World's Heavyweight Champion for a combined reign of like a week.
He won the title with a low blow at one point.
Yeah.
That right there shows you they had no faith in them.
Yeah, because they had that thing where, since Randy Orton kept going crazy, they said, well, if you get DQ'd, you lose the title. So he field goal kicked Christian in between the legs, and Christian wins the title. Come on. And then he loses it like a week later.
Yep.
And the guy you and I both know, argued, and I had other people argue, that was such a great feud. How was it a great feud? Randy Orton demolished him every week. Oh, well, the matches were good. Like, the match...
Someone tell you that was Christian's best friend, too, right?
Yeah. That was Christian's most memorable thing. It was. I was like, he's a 2-time NWA champion.
Stop watching wrestling. Stop now, please.
I was so angry about that. Number 4, the Great Khali, World's Heavyweight title, because, good Lord, his most memorable moment as the World Heavyweight Champion was holding the thing upside down.
Yeah. That's like a reflection of how the wrestling world was at that time, too, because he was champion.
Yeah, I know. And from what I heard, Great Khali is a really nice guy, but keep in mind, from what I heard, he killed a man with a power bomb over in India.
No, it was here. I believe it was here in my city.
Oh, really? Well, okay.
It was here in Hayward, yeah. So All Pro Wrestling. I think it was.
So he killed a man with a power bomb, and then he goes on to be the World Heavyweight Champion in WWE. Good Lord.
Hey, Ray Lewis has a couple of Super Bowl rings, okay?
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. Anyway, number 3, Vince McMahon, WWE and ECW World Heavyweight Champion, because, good Lord, why?
Well, gee, I wonder what your number 2 and 1 are going to be.
Number 2, Vinny Ruru, Vic Venom himself, Vince Russo, the Antichrist of professional wrestling, the man who, at one point in TNA, had Roddy Piper come out to do a shoot. He comes out to interrupt him, and then Roddy Piper backs him into a corner and goes, I remember you. You're the guy who killed my cousin. To which he was talking about Owen Hart, to those of you who don't know. That was uncomfortable to watch. And
so many times I've said that about a Vince Russo show.
Yeah, the WCW 2001 was uncomfortable to watch. Let's see, and number 1 is obviously David Arquette, and we've been over it, so we know why. Good God.
Yep.
All right, now we are moving on to our top 10 best world champions. Getting out of the obscurity that is the worst, we will move into who we believe are the best. And I'll be honest, I had a kind of a tough time ordering mine or even picking mine.
I did too.
So
First some names I had a bump and
yeah. I know. I will, and there are a couple of them I would reorder maybe if I did it again. But I wrote it down. It's in ink. I'm sticking with it. So, who do you got in your top 10?
All right. So for my top 10, I just was like, how much of an impact to their run have?
Yeah, I think you and I may have the same number 1, but we'll see.
Yeah. I might have the same top couple, actually. Number 10, I had CM Punk.
Yeah.
It's just completely, in my opinion, reinvigorated WWE. It was great. I wish we would have had more main events, but...
Yeah, that was my one thing about it, is the only time he main evented. He was Mr. 430... What was it, 434?
Something like that,
yeah. So he was Mr. 434... He held it for 434 days, and the only time he ever main evented in a title match was when he took on John Cena. I thought that was pathetic.
Yep.
And
number 9.
I loved him.
Number 9, I have Triple H. Because I think it was during the Attitude Era. It was one of his best ones, I thought.
Yeah.
It was a nice fresh take after Austin Rock.
Yeah.
I do think they diluted it too much in 2004, but...
Well, the thing is, they just had him hold the title and crush everybody for so much of the Ruthless Aggression era that people got tired of seeing him as world champion, I think.
Yeah.
And plus, the first time it was he's a heel, and Austin and Rock were both faces going for the title, so it was a little different.
Yeah. I really enjoyed a couple of his first runs, though.
Yeah.
Number 8, The Rock. Again, I think he's just another guy that reinvigorated the Attitude Era. It was all about Austin. And it was hey, here's another guy. Don't forget him.
Yeah, they had the top 2. I mean, obviously he was second fiddle to Austin. He didn't have the drawing ability as Austin, I would argue, and a lot of people have said. But at the same time, he was really close. He was a close second.
Oh, yeah, kind of like Macho Man with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, where if Hulk left and it was just Macho to carry the company, it wouldn't have went as big as it did. And just like WWE, when Austin left, it wasn't as big as it was with just Rock. But he was still a really close second. He just needed a number 1 for his number 2. That sounded wrong, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, right. Number 7, I said Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, he's... What can you say about one of the greatest wrestlers in history?
Yeah.
And biggest showman.
And he had to carry the company on his back up against the NWO. That was not easy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I gave him credit for that.
Even when Brett jumped ship, he was still there.
Yep. Number 6, I said John Cena. He's one of the most iconic names.
Yeah.
How do you not say him?
No matter what anybody can say about him, and yeah, you can blame the company for this in a way, but I mean, in all honesty, he's the biggest superstar that they have and have had in the last 10 years, I'd say.
I'd say he's one of the top 3 most notable names in wrestling history.
Yeah, and I realize...
You can ask someone who doesn't watch wrestling, hey, do you know who this guy is? And they say yes, that means something.
Yeah, he's up. That's like with Hogan. And a lot of people have argued, and I do kind of the same thing, where it's they put all of their eggs into the John Cena basket, which is why it's like that, and nobody else is that over, but at the same time, it's like, he busted his butt, so.
Yeah. I mean, can't fault him for taking it all that they gave him. So
no, I don't fault him in that matter. I kind of fault WWE, but I don't. No, he took it and ran with it the best he could.
Yeah. Number 5, I said Samoa Joe in Ring of Honor.
Oh,
I thought that was a hell of a run.
Wow, you put him above John Cena, huh?
Well, yeah, because it's not about the number of reigns. It's what they did with, like, a reign, and I thought he did more with one. And John Cena has quite a few, couple weeks, 1 month reigns in there, so.
Well, if you're gonna say Samoa Joe, I'm waiting to see if you say it. Do you have any other Ring of Honor champs?
I don't. I had to bump Bryan Danielson, by the way.
I was gonna say if you're gonna have Samoa Joe, I would have put Nigel McGuinness in that same category.
I did bump Nigel too. I did. I just thought Joe was more notable to me.
Yeah.
Number 4, I have Austin. How do you just it's a Stone Cold. So.
Yeah.
It was important because, like, reinvigorated WWE, when they were dead in the water.
Yeah.
And he single-handedly brought him back. So.
Yep.
Number 3, Bruno Sammartino.
Oh, yeah. Definitely got to have him on there.
Yeah. Yeah. Just his long reign. You don't sell the garden 1,000 times by accident, so.
Yeah, he made people believe that wrestling was real, and they loved it.
Oh, yeah. Number 2 and 1, you probably figure who they are. Number 2, I put Ric Flair. Only because he wasn't as known as number 1.
Oh, I know who you're going to say.
Yeah, so.
It's your favorite.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, come on, without him, though, there is no wrestling, honestly. So.
Yeah. Well, my list is a little different. I'll tell you, I am switching around. After hearing your list and thinking about it a little more, I'm switching around a couple names. I
just went with, what their reigns meant, too, by the way.
Yeah. Well, while you had the one obscure one with, I believe with the throwing Samoa Joe in there, I do have one obscure one as well, but he's my number 10. My top 10 is number 10, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion in New Japan, and that's because when New Japan was kind of obscure, it was in they call it the dark ages of New Japan. He carried that company, and he was the biggest star in Japan. And people claim he's the John Cena of New Japan and whatever, and he, for good reason. He carried that company. If people in Japan, everybody knew who Hiroshi Tanahashi was. So, and he's still having amazing matches. They didn't call him the ace of New Japan for nothing. Number 9, I said Shawn Michaels. I know he's a little low on the list, but I mean, he did do a lot, but I have other people a little higher on the list, and you might see why. Number 8, it's a weird one, going way back, Thesz, because he is the longest reigning NWA champion in history at a time when that was a huge deal.
Even when I was the title.
Yeah. And
I did have him on my list, by the way, and then ordering him. Yeah.
Then you bumped him. I guess there was a time Jim Cornette was talking about the old fogies that would come to shows and stuff when he was younger, and he said I think Billy Robinson was walking away. He won the match and he grabbed the NWA title, or I think it was the AWA title. He picked it up and he started walking away, and some old man yells, "Thesz would have kicked your ass." And I was like, good Lord. But yeah, people loved Thesz. He was a huge draw. I mean, you don't travel the United States as NWA champion for that long. I think like over 2,000 days or something like that for nothing. So, same thing with Bruno, man. But number 7, I said The Rock, because he was so influential in the Attitude Era, and we already went over all that. Number 6, John Cena, because, like we said, he was the only star in a sea of not so many stars for the longest time, and he did a lot to bring WWE out of, and people complain about it, but bring it out of the Ruthless Aggression era into where it is now. And he was the face of the company through all of that, man. So, number 5, I'm going to say...
He'd be argued he still is, too. So.
Well, yeah, but he's kind of fading out, and I think they're trying to work more with Finn Balor and AJ Styles. Seth. Well, Seth, too, yeah. Seth, Roman, Finn, and AJ. And maybe Shinsuke in the future. But Shinsuke doesn't have... While people love Shinsuke, and I believe people will pay to see Shinsuke, I don't think he could be as big of a star as an AJ Styles. I mean, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, but AJ is different.
Well, I would say that's because... Not that... I'm not going to say Shinsuke is one-dimensional. He's not. He's very charismatic and a huge draw and great in the ring and everything, but you can only do so much with a guy who can only cut really short promos. So...
For now.
Yeah. I mean, he's okay, but they're doing a lot with Hideo Itami, not letting him talk, and from what I heard, he has a pretty good grasp on English, so we'll have to see. But I don't think he said a word since he's been in NXT.
Not that I know of.
I mean, he came out at this last show, I don't know if you saw, and spoilers for those who haven't, but Bobby Roode was cutting a promo, and he comes out, makes his return, and he stands there in the ring, and Bobby's talking trash, and he just smacks a taste out of Bobby's mouth.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and then Bobby takes his jacket off, pulls his shirt sleeves up, and comes at him, and he hits him with a GTS out of nowhere, and just leaves like a boss. I was like, yes, Hideo, please stay healthy. Number 5, Harley Race, NWA World Champion. Because, again, when he was the champ, he was the NWA. People always remember Harley Race selling out and just drawing huge money all over the United States. He was a reason why people still loved NWA at the time when, WWE was starting to pick up a little bit of steam, going national. Number 4, I said Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because, I mean, one of the biggest draws in wrestling history, man. I mean, at least, and definitely, I would say number 2 draw in WWE history, for sure. Number 3, I had to reorder this a little bit. Number 3, I'm going to say Bruno Sammartino, for all the reasons we said, how amazing he was, and I think, I don't know if some people argue if he went to the NWA, would he really have had as much success, but you never know. And I guess that was the whole reason they always talk about they wanted Bruno to be NWA champ, and the NWA said no, but they said yes to Buddy Rogers. So they let Buddy be the champion, and unfortunately, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers goes down as the first transitional champion in WWF history.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, he was the first, but the only reason he was, the first was so that he could drop the belt to Bruno, and then Bruno went on his historic reign. I mean, come on, the guy came back from a broken neck within, 3 months, and went against Muhammad Ali, I think.
Yep.
So that was insane. Who does that? He didn't even have surgery. He's just the man is a monster. But anyway, number 2, I said Hulk Hogan, for all the reasons you named and all that, and he had long reigns, good reigns. He was great as a face, as a heel. He stayed relevant for so long. And number 1, I'm going to say Ric Flair, just because of all the work he did in the NWA, all the stuff he did in WCW, all the stuff even in WWF. I realize he's only a one-time WWE champion, but it was a memorable feud, and with him and Macho, and how can you have a bad match with Macho Man?
Yeah, right.
So it was great. I've always when I was younger, I wasn't a huge fan of Ric Flair because, I mean, as a kid, when you're a kid watching wrestling and you're presented with a Ric Flair and a Hulk Hogan, you're probably going to gravitate more towards Hogan. But as
I mean, I think when you're naming top 10, those two are probably going to be interchangeable on a lot of people's lists.
Yeah. So you and I had the same number 1 and number 2, just in different orders, I think. Right? Yeah. You said Flair number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously these lists are hugely subjective, as all of our lists are. But it is what it is. I realize this podcast has went on longer than any other podcast we've ever done, but we've been having a lot of fun BSing about random stuff. And there was a lot of news to get to. Some of it just popped up within the last couple days. But I'm going to say our top 10 list for next week, I think this one I've been wanting to get to. I think it's going to be pretty fun. We're going to have to really dig into our what have we seen in our lives? What have we seen on the network? Stuff like that. Top 10 rivalries in wrestling history.
Oh wow, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to thinking back and then pulling stuff up and stuff like that, and either if we've seen it or if we've seen footage of it or whatever, we'll put that in our top 10. But I think that'll be a fun list for next Monday.